What's up, everybody? It is Mr. Graves here, getting ready to go over a couple of things that you're going to need to know for your quiz on the Bill of Rights. Before we look at the Bill of Rights, so there is a question or two, or I should say there are a question or two about the English political documents that we looked at with the first lesson of the year, the Magna Carta, the English Bill of Rights, and the Petition of Rights. What you need to remember about all three of those, you don't have to know all the little details, but the Magna Carta, Petition of Rights, and the English Bill of Rights were three political documents that came from England that limited the power of the English monarchy. It didn't eliminate the monarchy. It did not completely get rid of it, because it's still around today. They don't have much power anymore, but they're still around. But it limited the power of the English monarchy, which, of course, is going to influence the Founding Fathers when they created the documents such as the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and also, of course, the U.S. Constitution. So remember that about those English political documents. But now, let's get into the Bill of Rights. So remember, the Bill of Rights are the first 10 amendments of the U.S. Constitution. There are 27 amendments overall, but the first 10 are the Bill of Rights. And the overall purpose of the Bill of Rights is to protect the rights of American citizens from the government. Remember, the Anti-Federalists were terrified that if you gave the federal government too much power, they would use that power to violate the rights of American citizens. So in order to make sure that wouldn't happen, they demanded and requested that a Bill of Rights would be added to the Constitution that would guarantee the protection of certain rights. So let's look at what those rights are. I know you know a lot of these, especially the First Amendment, but please remember the First Amendment's not just the freedom of speech. It's not just the freedom of religion. There's actually a couple different components to it. Yes, freedom of speech is included in the First Amendment. Freedom of religion is also included. We talked about that. Freedom of the press, so the press can criticize the government without getting punished. Freedom of assembly, the right for people to meet together in groups without being broken up or limited or restricted by the government. And the right to petition the government, to ask the government to change things. You can't. There's the government. If you go up and ask the government, hey, President Obama, you change this? This idea sucks. I don't like your ideas about healthcare. Well, he can't just kill you on the spot for that or send you to prison forever because of that, because you have the right to petition. A couple of things I do want to point about the First Amendment. Remember, there are limits to all of these. There's limits to freedom of speech. There's limits to freedom of religion. There's limits to freedom of the press and assembly and petition. But you do have those rights. Usually where it gets limited is where the rights of one individual are kind of damage or overtake the rights of the group of American citizens as a whole. So if one of the rights of American citizens, the freedom of speech, like shouting fire in a crowded theater, well, I guess technically you have the freedom of speech, but if you do that, you're going to cause a mass panic, and that's going to end up hurting other people as they kind of trample over each other and fight each other, knock each other out, kill each other, trying to get out and save themselves, because we're all selfish beings, right? According to Thomas Hobbes. Well, in that case, your freedom of speech would be limited. You would actually get punished for that, because by exercising your freedom of speech, you actually cause harm to other American citizens. So make sure you understand there are limitations. The Second Amendment, I think you guys know, you have the right to bear arms. People have the right to own weapons. The Third Amendment doesn't really deal so much with us anymore. It's hard to think of a modern-day example. I found one for our lesson, but it's really hard to find anymore. But remember back to the American Revolution when the British were quartering troops, allowing troops to live in Americans' homes and basically allowing them to take over the homes of Americans. The Americans have to serve the British soldiers inside their own homes. Well, since they were very angry about that whole deal, they decided to include an amendment in the Bill of Rights, the Third Amendment, that outlawed the quartering of troops. So citizens cannot be forced to house soldiers in their homes during peacetime. Now, there's a limit here. During wartime, it does say, during wartime, if the law requires, if a law is passed that says during wartime, the United States can quarter troops in your home, then it's allowed. But if it's during peacetime when there's no war going on, they can't do it. The next couple of amendments deal with due process and the right of the accused. So the Fourth Amendment is the right to privacy. It's created the right to privacy. Now, what we've talked about a lot is it protects American citizens against unwarranted searches and seizures. So the police can't just come in your house and search through your stuff and take stuff as evidence without a search warrant. To get a search warrant, they have to have probable or reasonable cause. So you have to go to the judge if you're a law enforcement officer and say, hey, judge, here's why we think so-and-so. Here's why we think Mr. Graves is holding 20 people hostage inside his house. Here's why we have probable cause. Here's our probable cause. The judge would look at that and decide, okay, is that enough probable cause? If he thinks yes, he will give them a search warrant. If he thinks no, he'll say, sorry, I'm not giving you a warrant. You're going to have to find some other way. So that is the key part to the Fourth Amendment. Now, the Fifth Amendment is really the true due process amendment. It's basically spells out the rights of the accused. Now, we all know the Miranda rights. If you get arrested, I hope you never get arrested, but if you do, they will tell you you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. That whole part is coming directly from the Fifth Amendment. So technically what it says is that you have the right against self-incrimination. To incriminate yourself means to basically say that you're guilty, do something that shows that you're guilty. So if somebody asks you a question in a trial when you're on the witness stand, says, did you murder this person? If the true answer would be yes, I did, then you can say I plead the Fifth, or just refuse to answer. You don't have to say I plead the Fifth. You can just refuse to answer. If the answer would make you sound guilty, you have the right to remain silent. You also have the right to due process. So if they accuse you of a crime, if they charge you with a crime, they don't just automatically throw you in prison forever. You have the right to a trial. So they have to go through the legal process, the due process, where they go to a trial, you get a lawyer, you question witnesses, you can confront the people that are charging you with these crimes, you have a jury there. All of that is included in the Fifth Amendment. So is the Double Jeopardy Clause, where you cannot be tried for the same crime more than one time. We talked about the Emmett Till case, where some white racists murdered this 14-year-old black boy in Money, Mississippi. They were found innocent, and then right after they were found innocent, they write a book to make some money off of it, admitting that they did it, but they couldn't be charged with the same crime. The Sixth Amendment is similar to the Fifth Amendment. So the Fifth Amendment gives you the right to a trial, basically, the due process if you're charged with a crime. The Sixth Amendment says that trial has to be fair and speedy. So they can't just hold you in jail for 5 years before they give you a trial. They have to make it as quick as possible. And it also says an accused person will get a fair trial. What that means is that you'll have a public trial. It will be in public. It's not going to be in secret where people can't see what's going on. And you also have the opportunity to have a jury present there. Sorry for the bell. It also says right here you have the right to face your accuser. So if someone's accusing you of a crime, you have the right to put them on the witness stand and question them there in front of everybody. And also the Sixth Amendment includes the right to an attorney. You're always allowed an attorney. If you can't afford one, the government has to provide you with one. Okay, almost done. Seventh Amendment. The Seventh Amendment deals with civil cases, not criminal cases. Remember, a criminal case is any case that deals with a crime being committed. It could be a small crime like shoplifting a candy bar from a convenience store, or it could be a big crime like murder. Civil suits are disagreements between two people or groups of people. No crime's been committed, so like if my neighbor's tree is dead, it falls on my car and messes my car up. Well, I could sue him to force him to pay to fix my car. Well, he would say, no, it's not my fault. I'm sorry. It's your car. You got to fix it. I say, well, it wouldn't have to be fixed if it wasn't for your tree. So it's just a personal disagreement between two people. And sometimes civil suits can involve people trying to ask for money. Sometimes be asking people to stop doing something. Maybe forcing your neighbors to stop playing the music really loud at night. But if it's a civil case that involves more than $20, the Seventh Amendment says that you are entitled to have a jury listen to your case. In a lot of civil cases, it's just a judge that decides what's going to happen. But the Seventh Amendment says you're entitled to have a jury trial for a civil case if you want one. The Eighth Amendment's a big one. We talked about this one a lot. The big part of the Eighth Amendment is it protects American citizens from cruel or unusual punishment. Now, what counts as cruel and unusual punishment, that's been up for debate. It's very controversial. Some people say the death penalty is cruel and unusual punishment, but the Supreme Court has said that's not. Some people say torture is cruel and unusual punishment. Some people say it's necessary. Throwing you in prison and not giving you food, that could be considered cruel and unusual punishment. It also deals with bail. The bail money is, once you get arrested, you can go home and chill out until your trial, but to get out of jail, to go home and wait for your trial, you have to get bailed out. Somebody has to pay money to bail you out. The judge is the one who's in charge of setting what that bail is going to be. And it depends on usually how many times you've been arrested before, what's your prior record, what crime did you commit. There's different categories of crimes. There's a bell again, sorry about that. That can, wow, that's a long bell. But there's different categories of crimes that usually have a certain amount of bail set for them. But again, it's always up to the judge. If they think the person might be a flight risk, the chance that they get out, they might leave, they might set the bail a little higher. So what the Eighth Amendment says about bail is that bail has to be reasonable, has to be basically proportional. So if you steal a candy bar from a convenience store, they can't set your bail at $1 million. Now, if you are accused of murdering 3 people, they might set your bail at $1 million. It kind of makes sense because you committed a really bad crime. So bail has to be reasonable. The 9th and 10th Amendment don't really get talked about as much, but they're important too, so I want to make sure we mention them real quick. The 9th Amendment deals with people's rights. So the Bill of Rights is 10 amendments that list all these rights of citizens. Well, what the 9th Amendment says is that just because a right's not listed in the Bill of Rights or in the Constitution doesn't mean the citizens don't have those rights. So basically it says there's other rights that citizens have that aren't listed here in the Bill of Rights, okay, to go beyond what's written in the Constitution. The 10th Amendment doesn't necessarily really deal with people's rights. It deals with states' rights. Remember we talked about reserved powers with federalism? Express powers are the powers given to the federal government. They're written in the Constitution. They're expressly written there. A reserved power is a power reserved for the states to do. And that's what the 10th Amendment does. It says that the powers that aren't expressly given to the federal government in the Constitution, so if it's not actually written in the Constitution, if you cannot read it in the Constitution, then that power is reserved for the states. It is given to the states. So that's the 10th Amendment. So there you go, guys. I hope that helps you get ready for your quiz tomorrow. If you have any questions, obviously, come see me in the morning and be glad to help. Good luck, guys. See you tomorrow.